Welcome to another segment of the BYU Management Society's Learn from Professionals initiative. Our goal is to provide guidance to young adults that are either exploring various careers or are ready to jumpstart a career. Today, we have an opportunity to learn from a seasoned professional in the financial services industry. Dave Mullen is the founding partner and principal of Altius Learning. He's a retired managing director at Merrill Lynch, where he personally hired, trained, and managed over 500 advisors over 27 years. He's worked with hundreds of individual million-dollar and multi-million-dollar advisors, including many of the industry's top advisors. At Merrill Lynch, his responsibilities included financial advisor, producing manager, sales manager, complex manager, national sales director, and he retired as a managing director. During his management career, Dave was recognized numerous times for being one of Merrill Lynch's top national managers. While at Merrill Lynch, his advisor training programs had a consistent success rate significantly higher than the industry average. Dave founded Learn Tactics, now called Altius Learning, in 2007, with the objective of creating training and coaching programs that would be career-changing experiences for participating advisors and managers. He's the author of 3 best-selling books: The $1 Million Financial Services Practice, The $1 Million Advisor, Powerful Lessons and Proven Strategies from Top Producers, and his new book, The $1 Million Financial Advisor Team. Dave has been featured in Investment News and Smart Money magazines. He holds a BA and an MBA from the University of Georgia and has attended the Executive Leadership Program at the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. He's an avid bike rider and skier. He and his wife, Cynthia, have 4 children, and he resides in Denver, Colorado. So Dave, thank you for your willingness to share your expert advice with our viewers. Dave, what made you decide to pursue a career in the financial services industry?
Well, first of all, Scott, thank you for the nice introduction. I appreciate that, and it's my honor and privilege to be part of your interview program and helping young professionals find a career that is well suited for them. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I appreciate you taking the time to make this possible. To answer your question specifically, like so many things, Scott, it was random. I was in graduate school. I had a friend that became a good friend of mine. I went to work for Bell South right after graduate school, and he went to work for Merrill Lynch. And we continued to stay in touch. And as he talked about his career, it appealed a lot more to me than what I was doing. So I asked him if he could get me an interview with his manager at Merrill Lynch. He did, and I got hired. In 1980, I was 25 years old.
There you go. So, Dave, why do you believe you've been so successful in your career?
You know, it's interesting about the psychology of success. And, I can tell you that I fall in the camp of fear of failure being more than, anything else. I saw the upside of this career, which is really considerable, and I didn't want to blow the opportunity to become successful. And so I was so worried and nervous about not making it that proved to be a huge catalyst in me working a lot of hours and me doing, things that were not easy to do because I didn't want to fail. And that may, be a different type of psychology, but that was really my motivator early in my career.
I see. So, Dave, you started off as a financial advisor, you went into management roles, and finally you founded your own company. Can you talk about your transitions, why you went from one role to another role to finally starting your own company?
Yeah, it's a good question, Scott. So as a financial advisor, I certainly enjoyed my career as a financial advisor, and I would have been happy continuing on with that. But I was young and ambitious, and Merrill Lynch was a big company. And, I felt that I could go beyond just being a financial advisor in Georgia, and was driven to see how far I could go up the corporate ranks. And so 6 years after being an advisor, I was given the opportunity to go through the Merrill Lynch Assessment Center. And I went through that process and I passed it. And at that point, you give up your clients and you become a full-time manager. And so that was very exciting to me. I felt like I was ready for it. I wanted to get out of Georgia and see the world. And so that was really the motivating factors that went from being a financial advisor to being a manager. Now, 21 years later, from that point, I had reached a point where, I was ready to have my own business. I felt there was a real need for training in our industry. I felt like the training that I had experienced at Merrill Lynch wasn't that impressive. And I, always being a student of the business and as a manager, learning from the best that I had worked with as a manager at Merrill, I felt there was a real opportunity for that stage in my life after 30 years with Merrill Lynch, or almost 30 years, to start a coaching and training firm, which kind of really satisfied my entrepreneurial interest at that stage. And so it was a big leap to go from corporate America to my own business, but I've never looked back and never regretted that decision.
So Dave, definitely the skiing is much better in Colorado than Georgia. So is that what brought you out here?
That's a great question, Scott. It was really, again, random. And I guess a message that I'll give to your viewers is that there's so many things in life that happen that you can't predict or that you can't even map out. They just happen, and you got to make the best of them. And so, much like my career in starting as a financial advisor, when I passed the assessment center at Merrill Lynch, they assigned me to be an assistant manager in Denver, Colorado in 1986. I'd never been to Colorado before. I didn't know anything about Colorado, but I fell in love with it the minute I arrived, and I never looked back. And so as my career took me to different places geographically, I always wanted to come back to Colorado because, I lost my heart to Colorado. So I ended up at the end of my career being the managing director of the Colorado market, which was a perfect end to my Merrill career and the beginning of my Altius Learning career. And Denver is where I'll hopefully be the rest of my life.
That's terrific. So Dave, has your career been on a continual upward path, or have you had to overcome obstacles?
Scott, it's a great question. And I don't know how anybody can go through a career and have a straight path upward. I don't know of anybody that has, and I certainly haven't. And, first of all, my career as a financial advisor, there were a lot of dark moments when I didn't think I was going to make it, especially early on in my career. As hard as I worked, it was slow and it was hard, and there was a lot of fear and there was a lot of anxiety about my ability to do it. And all I knew to do was to just keep working hard, because I didn't have any other choice. I didn't have a plan B. And so as a financial advisor, it was just a matter of getting through those dark moments and working as hard as I could, because that was the only course of action that I knew I could take. As a manager at Merrill Lynch, you can't work for a large organization where there aren't political opportunities and political downsides. And I certainly had, times during different assignments that I had that I got on the right side and I got on the wrong side. And there were definitely, moments of fear and anxiety again, when I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to survive those. But again, like being a financial advisor, you put your head down, you do the best you can. You never quit trying, and things always seem to work out. And then finally, as starting my own business in the beginning, I didn't know how successful it would be. I didn't have any clients to begin with. And again, it goes to those kind of fearful moments, where there's a lot of uncertainty, but it goes back to everything else I said. And that is, you put your head down, you work hard, you do your best, and things have worked out. So absolutely, Scott, I've had a number of setbacks, but always kind of that work ethic and that commitment and that resiliency has been able to stand the test of time.
So Dave, as a hiring manager, what were you looking for in candidates to become a financial advisor, both from a character standpoint, but also an educational background?
So that's a great question, Scott, and I'll try not to oversimplify this, but I think it was pretty simple in my mind, is that I always tried to hire overachievers. And what I mean by that is that if I looked at a person's track record and they showed a sign of achievement in whatever they did, if it was being a janitor part-time while they're going to school, if it was, being a student in their grades they got, if it was being involved in activities while they were in college, if their first jobs they excelled at, then, they were good in athletics, whatever it was that they did it well. In my mind, that told me that that person was wired for success, and they couldn't help themselves. Whatever they did, they were motivated and they would do what it took to be successful. So again, Scott, I don't want to oversimplify this, but I look for records of achievement in terms of whatever they had done prior, whether it was a student, whether it was a first job, whether it was an athlete. And if they showed me a record of achievement, then that hit most of my boxes. Now, there's some other intangibles, obviously, and that is good interpersonal skills, having a good impact, being the kind of person that you could trust. I mean, all those things absolutely were important. But my overriding characteristic was a history of achievement.
And what about education requirements?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, Scott. I actually have a journalism degree. I went on and got an MBA, but I found that my journalism degree actually had more impact in terms of my success as an advisor than my business degree. Why? Because having written and oral communication skills is really important in relating to people. I would say being a teacher, an educational background, again, being able to relate to people, be able to connect with people, being able to teach people is as important as being an economics major. Now, that's not to say that a business degree isn't important and isn't good. It is. But I wouldn't want any of your candidates or people that you're working with to think that you have to have a business degree to be a successful financial advisor. I think it's good to have it, but there are other degrees that frankly work just as well.
So would you hire someone without an undergraduate degree?
I would not. I say that, Scott, I guess there would always be, I don't ever want to say there are no exceptions. If a person came and their story was so compelling that, I would make an exception, I would. But I would say that as a rule, I think having a college degree and going through the discipline of learning and, achieving a degree is a baseline that I think would be important to be a successful financial advisor.
So Dave, reading through your bio, it looks like you've adopted a regimen of a lifetime of learning. So why is that habit so important to becoming successful as a financial advisor?
Scott, it's interesting. The top advisors that I've worked with, that I've interviewed, that I've coached, have a relentless pursuit of self-improvement. They're never satisfied. They always want more. And that's not in a bad way. I think it's actually a great characteristic to have. No matter how successful they are, they always want to be better. And I think a pursuit of learning, understanding the markets, understanding the psychology of investing, understanding, current events, getting advanced certifications, I think all contribute to the professionalism and expertise that frankly affluent people expect to have in their financial advisor. So, it's just a commitment or a philosophy of continual self-improvement in learning and education that really take people to the top of this profession.
So Dave, you spoke concerning advanced learning certifications. Are there any certifications that you feel that are really important for an advisor to achieve?
Absolutely, Scott. I would say that the very baseline that every advisor that comes in this industry should work towards a CFP, Certified Financial Planning designation. To me, that's the foundation for which to build a successful career. Our industry has evolved from when I started in 1980 to being really a sales job to really evolving into a much higher level of professionalism. And that's providing financial advice to affluent individuals and helping them reach their financial goals and working with them in every aspect of their financial life. And having a certified financial planning designation really takes that knowledge to a higher level. And frankly, I think it's table stakes in our industry today. Mm-hmm. Now, beyond that, you can really look and say, okay, do I want to really, move towards the analytical part of the business? Well, there's a CFA that you can achieve. If you really want to go more into the management of investments, the SEMA designation is a good designation. If you want to focus on business owners, the SEPA designation is a good designation. So there's so many designations in this industry that as you evolve, you can kind of think about where do I really want to go? But the baseline to me is a CFP, and that would be mandatory, I think, for anybody that's serious about this career.
So Dave, certainly the industry has changed a lot since you first became a financial advisor. Do you think that it's a good time right now or a bad time for someone to seriously consider a career as a financial advisor?
Scott, it's the best time I've ever seen in the 42 years I've been in the business. You might ask why. Well,
why?
There are a number of reasons. Right? Why? There are right now 15 million people that have over $1 million of investable assets. 15 million in this country. When I started in 1980, there were 1 million. So there's never been a time in America where there's been more wealth than there is right now. Okay, that's one reason. The second reason is that over the next 20 years, there's an expectation based on Cerulli research that there's going to be $75 trillion of assets passed from one generation to another. 75 trillion. I mean, if you look at what $1 trillion is, it's a mind-boggling number, and times 73. And so the advisor that comes into the business now is going to have an opportunity as that intergenerational wealth transfers. The other reason that it's such a good time are the demographics. There are 80 million people right now between 55 and 75 called the baby boomer generation. There's never a need for people to have a financial advisor more than as they're approaching and are in retirement. So you've got a third of the population that is in that situation right now. And that's never been the case before. There's been that many people that are kind of in the sweet spot of needing financial advice. So for all those reasons, Scott, I don't know that I've ever seen a better time to be a financial advisor than right now.
Mm-hmm. And what about let's say the graying of the industry? Are there as many new advisors coming in versus old advisors that are retiring?
It's a great question, Scott, and it's a real opportunity for people coming into this industry because there are more advisors retiring right now that are coming in. And so for those that come in, there's frankly less competition for more money. And so I think that it's a real issue for firms in our industry to replace the number of advisors that are now retiring, that are significant. So it's a good opportunity, but I think it's a problem for a lot of firms in our industry in replacing the retiring FAs right now.
Mm-hmm. And how would you advise if someone wanted to become a financial advisor? How would you advise them getting into the industry as, let's say, a sole practitioner or joining a team?
So I think that again, the dynamics of our team, of our industry have changed so much, Scott, and that when I started, and probably when you started, there weren't many teams that you could join. You had to start on your own and build your own. But today, 70 to 80% of advisors are on a team. And to me, it's such a great opportunity to come into the business on a team, to learn from senior advisors, as opposed to having to learn it all on your own. To be able to have mentors and to observe and watch what it takes to build a successful practice. That was a luxury that you and I never had. And so I think that being a junior member of a senior team in almost any role would be the best way to start in the industry right now.
Mm-hmm. Dave, what do you consider to be some of the more significant rewards and challenges of being a financial advisor?
Well, the challenges are that you can't control the markets. And I think for a lot of people, that's very frustrating. People that care deeply, don't like for their clients not to make money or to lose money, even worse. And they internalize it. They, wake up in the middle of the night worrying about it. And the challenge with that is an advisor can't control the markets. So you're conflicted with this need to want to do well on something you can't necessarily control, and kind of rectifying that and resolving that so that you can be at peace with yourself and knowing that long term is the objective, not short term. And the psychology of that, I think, is probably the biggest challenge of being a financial advisor. The opportunity is, in my view, far outweighs that. One is your income. There's unlimited upside to your income. And I don't say that lightly. There truly is unlimited upside. And there aren't many careers that are like that, particularly in larger firms. Mm-hmm. So you got unlimited upside. And at the same time, you're able to make a positive difference, a significant difference in the lives of people. I mean, there's been psychology research that said when people are asked what the most important thing in their life is, they say their family, their health, and their money. So their money is right up there with their family and health, and you have the ability to make an impact, a significant impact on their financial well-being. And so not only is it upside in terms of income, but it's upside in terms of psychology of making a positive difference. Additionally, being involved as a financial advisor, you got to stay abreast of current events. It's exciting. Things are happening. It's not a stagnant industry. There's always some change. And you got to be on top of that. So it's stimulating, it's rewarding financially and personally. And so to me, that the upside or the good things far outweigh the negatives.
That's great. Dave, tell me, what do you consider to be the most important characteristics of a successful financial advisor?
Well, that's a good question, and I'll say that going back to my question or my comment about achievement, I think that the best advisors, the qualities of the best advisors, is they're always trying to get better. There's a relentless pursuit of self-improvement for themselves, for their clients, for the sake of their practice. And that's something that I've seen all good advisors, they never lose that need to achieve, need to improve. Secondly, is that I think that the need to be empathetic. At the end of the day, this business is more about psychology than numbers. And what people want in a financial advisor is somebody that they can trust. And people trust people that demonstrate that they care. Mm-hmm. It's not just words, it's actions. And showing that you care about people is equally as important as your knowledge of numbers. And being able to relate to people on a personal level so they feel comfortable trusting their financial welfare with you. I think being organized, not all advisors are organized, but I think that those that are do better than those that don't, because this is a complex business. There's a lot of moving parts to it. There's current events in the markets, and there's clients, and there's compliance and legal issues, and there's team meetings, and there's so much that comes at you that being organized and being able to really focus on the most important things really help an advisor become more successful. So those would be some of my thoughts about the characteristics that it takes to be successful.
So you mentioned trust, and the relationship that an advisor has with their client is very important, and it has to be around trust. How do you build that trust?
It's simple, Scott. Your words and your actions always have to line up. You do what you say you're going to do in all cases. And if you can't do it, you admit that you can't do it. You don't overpromise. You actually over deliver and under promise, if anything, and that your words and your actions always line up. The other thing is that you have to have and demonstrate a high level of professional competence. People want to invest their money with somebody that they believe knows what they're doing. It's like when you get into an airplane, you want to make sure that pilot has all their certificates and have all the knowledge to fly that plane successfully. The same way with a financial advisor, they've got to demonstrate a level of professional competence. And then finally, you've got to show the client sincerely that you care. Because when people believe that you're invested in their lives and they're not just a client, then that's when the ultimate trust occurs. So showing that you care about their family, showing that you're committed to them as people, not just as clients, is the highest level of trust. So it's words and actions always lining up. It's demonstrating professional competence, and it's showing you care all the time about them as people. Generates trust.
Dave, the industry has a fairly significant dropout rate for new advisors. Why is that? When you have people that have been successful in other areas of their life, but yet they come into this industry and they don't succeed, what are some of the reasons behind that? How would you coach them to succeed?
I'll tell you what, Scott, that is the multi-million-dollar question that all financial services firms struggle with, is how to reduce the dropout rate or the failure rate of financial advisors. And I think it's fairly simple. It's not easy, but I think it's fairly simple to answer. I think that the reason that most financial advisors, new financial advisors, fail is they don't spend enough time doing the right things. As I mentioned before, there's so many things, that conflicting ways that you can spend your time. And if you're not able to prioritize, then you're going to find yourself spending time doing things that aren't productive at the expense of things that are productive. And there are two things that are essential in terms of being successful as an advisor. One is bringing in new clients consistently, and two is taking care of the clients you have. Everything else is detail. Certainly you can't ignore that, but you've got to put front and center acquiring new clients and assets and taking care of your existing clients. And most new advisors that fail don't spend enough time doing that. They get sucked into the black hole of research or administrative work or emails. And to some degree, it's called reluctance. It's hard. It's hard to bring in new clients. That's not an easy part of the business. And a lot of people just, they resist doing that, or they postpone doing that. But in fact, that's the most important thing to do. So I think that really spending time doing the right thing. And the other thing is, and this goes to working with a team, is, this is a unique business. You can't necessarily relate another business to this business. And so knowing what you need to do to be successful is as important as just, spending hours at it. So you've got to have direction and knowledge. And I would say that's not intuitive. And to the degree that you can work with a senior advisor and have them help and guide you, so you're not reinventing the wheel, is another, I think, really important part of being successful early on in the career.
Dave, what advice would you give to someone that is exploring a career as a financial advisor? Maybe they have several different choices of the career path that they want to pursue, but one of those might be a financial advisor. So what advice would you give to them to truly understand the industry and the position?
So Scott, at the risk of sounding self-promotional, I would really recommend that they invest $18 in Amazon and buy the book, The $1 Million Financial Services Practice. And the reason I'm saying that is not that I'm trying to sell my books. I'm saying that because that book really lays out very clearly what it takes to be a financial advisor. And so for a small amount of investment, you can really get, I think, a very accurate view of what this career is and the challenges and the opportunities of building a practice. So that would be one suggestion. Another suggestion I would make is that, there are lots of financial advisors in whatever market or city you live in. And I would recommend doing an informational interview, Scott. Everybody likes for people to ask their advice. Successful people like that. So, getting an informational interview with a financial advisor would not be hard to do. And I think that would really give a potential candidate, a real idea of what it's like, and not just the theory of it, but the reality of it. So those would be two suggestions that I would make.
So just like the informational interview that we're doing right now.
Right. I mean, seriously, I like people to ask my advice. I enjoy that. And I think most successful people do. So right on, Scott.
That's been my experience, that very successful people are willing to share their advice to help the next generation be successful.
Absolutely.
That's what our whole program's about.
And I admire you and respect you for it, Scott. It's a great program.
So Dave, what advice can you give to young adults that they want to be successful? They want to be successful in their occupation, but they want to have balance in their life too. How can you, I mean, we both know of advisors that have flamed out. They might have done well when they first started, but then they flamed out because of the rest of their life is not in balance. So talk to us about how an advisor can maintain that balance in their life.
Scott, it's such an important question, because what you don't want to do is wake up and you're 50 years old and you're out of shape, your health isn't good, and you're divorced and you don't have a great relationship with your kids. I mean, so what does success mean if you find yourself in that situation? I am convinced, and this is contrary to what many advice people in our industry might give, I'm convinced you can be highly successful in this career working 50 hours a week. And that 50 hours a week is a lot. And as you progress in your career, it would be less than that. But I'd say for the first 10 years anyway, 50 hours a week, you can build a highly successful career. There's a couple things. You got to be productive. You can't waste time. You got to do what's most important. The most important thing is getting in front of new affluent individuals and building relationships with them so that they become clients, and then taking care of your clients. And everything else is a lower priority than that. And so, in 50 hours a week, you can spend the time to get in front of wealthy people, develop prospects, convert them to clients, and then take good care of your clients. You can do that in 50 hours a week. With 50 hours a week, you've got time for your family on the weeknights to have dinner with them. You have time with them on the weekends. And so people that say I don't have time, they just don't make the time, and they don't prioritize the time. Mm-hmm. In terms of your physical health is concerned, nothing else works if you're not healthy. And when you're young, you take your health for granted, but as you get older, you don't anymore. And so, taking some time, not every day, but 3 or 4 days a week to take care of yourself physically. And if that's part of your weekend routine, and maybe a couple days where you get up early and, do a workout, I believe that also contributes. It doesn't take away from your time. It actually energizes you to be more productive. Mm-hmm. So I feel strongly that you can maintain that balance of family, work, and physical fitness if you prioritize and you really are time efficient and are good managers of time.
So Dave, you're a husband, you're a father of 4, you're an avid bicyclist, you're a great skier. Obviously you're in good shape, and then and my hat's off to you. What advice can you offer young adults that really want to make sure that they live a meaningful and productive life? Not just in search of the greenback, but a really meaningful, productive life.
Well, Scott, I would say that it's all prioritization. When people say that they don't have time for something that's important to them, my answer is it must not be that important to you because you do it. I mean, the one thing we all have control over is our time and how we spend it. We can't control the markets. We can't control the weather. We can't control whether somebody agrees to work with us as a client or not. There's so many things in life we can't control, but the one thing we can control is how we spend our time. And so I'll go back to what I said before. In my life, it's family, it's health, and it's my career. And, I don't necessarily spend a proportion of time on those three things, but I never lose that priority. And I would tell you that if it's a high priority, then, that's, you've got control of your time, and you got to make it work.
So Dave, in closing, is there any other career advice or life advice that you'd like to offer to young adults?
Yeah, I'd say, be an optimist. I feel so blessed and fortunate to be built to have been born in this country and to have found this industry, because in both cases, whatever your dreams are, they're possible. There's no limit to how successful you can be in the United States, and there's no limit to how successful you can be in the financial services business. And I feel absolutely blessed, Scott, that I was born in the United States and that I found the financial services business, because every dream I've ever had, I've been able to achieve, not without hard work and not without setbacks and not without failures, certainly. But as I look at myself as 68 years old, and if I could go back to my 25-year-old self and say, this is what it looks like, I'd be ecstatic. And that isn't just because I'm a great achiever. It's because that opportunity is available to anybody in this country, and particularly in our industry. So I'd say be optimistic, have dreams, and know that whatever your dreams are, no matter how high they are, you can achieve them.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for the time that you've taken today to offer career building advice to those young adults that are interested in a career as a financial advisor or a coach. So to wrap up this video, we'd like to remind our viewers that they can either reach out to their own seasoned professionals that they know to schedule an informational interview, or that they can ask for an introduction to that professional from someone that they know. To prepare for an informational interview, we recommend that you watch the video on our website titled Conducting Informational Interviews. And Dave, thanks again. We sincerely appreciate your time today.
Scott, it was my pleasure, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. And I want to wish all your viewers a lot of success in whatever career they pursue. So thanks for the opportunity, Scott.
All right. Take care.